Hi there, I'm Mike Reynolds, otherwise known as E. Michael Mattil, author of Callum's Fury, my book that just released today. I was thinking of ways to market my book, and it occurred to me, with the multitude of methods there are to get your content digitally, there may just be people out there who don't know how to use a book or don't even know what a book is. So, being a writer, what could I do as a public service? How about a how-to? How to read a book. So, first thing you want to do is get yourself a book. Now, Callum's Fury by E. Michael Mattil, me, came out today. And this would be a perfect book to learn how to read a book with. So the first thing you want to do, obviously get a book. Once you have a book in your hands, you want to look at the cover. Drink it in. This is art. An artist read the words of a writer and encapsulated the message of their story into one bold, striking image. And this one is really fantastic. L.J. Anderson from Mayhem Cover Creations designed this, and it's beautiful. So after you're done enjoying the cover, thinking about what it means, you open that bad boy up, and to open a book, you simply turn the page. So you open that up and you come to the title page, Callum's Fury, being the second part of Lake of Dragons. And there's some legal stuff, copyright, and who published it and whatnot, and then the dedication. The dedication in this book says, "For Sheila, again and always." Oh, shucks, that's sweet. Then you get to the meat of it. Now, a lot of times a book will start with chapter 1. This one starts with a prologue. And you read, just like you did in school, or just like you do on your electronic device. You read the words. I'll start with the prologue here. Good day for hunting. It was far too late in the morning to begin a hunt. The sun already flirted with the very pinnacle of its ascent. Before Emetoth reached the next clump of trees, the bright lord of the sky would be on its slow dive into the great sea, to swim the dark waters until once again it was time to kiss Ulos with the light of a new day. A late start didn't matter much to Emetoth. The hunt wasn't really what drew him out of the throne room and into an unfamiliar saddle on an unfamiliar horse. It was the trail he yearned for. Fresh air and freedom from the daily squabbles of those who called him king. The road forever beckoned, tugging his attention away from his duties and mundane questions of who did what to whom and why it wasn't fair. Sadly, the weight of his crown kept him firmly planted within the walls of his great city. Each day the freedom of the trail seemed to slip further and further away, a fond memory slowly fading into the murky obscurity of forgotten loves. The horse shifted awkwardly, reminding Emetoth of another lost love. Pride was a sturdy black steed, built for miles on the trail and fast as the westerly wind ahead of a furious storm. But he was no Rumala. More than merely an ample mode of transportation, Rumala had been his only companion on many a journey. The king's heart ached even more for the old horse than it did for the open trail. In 60 summers, he hadn't met a man he trusted more than that animal. If only he could have one more adventure, racing over rolling meadows, stooping to drink from the cool waters of a forest brook, and battling fearsome nightmare creatures from the darkest places where the feet of good folk don't tread. Alas, even if he could find a bit of freedom to do any of those things, his old friend would remain absent. Nothing could ever fill the empty spot Rumala left in his. Now here's a spot we have to pause. We've reached the end of a page. You're not finished. You need to turn that page and continue on the following one. Let's go back to where we were so we can do this in a kind of a smooth procession. We want to do it if you're all by yourself reading in your head, probably not out loud. Nothing could ever fill the empty spot Rumala left in his heart when he departed this world. So now we're on to page 2. And to recap, read to the bottom and then turned the page. You think we'll be seeing anything for the wall, Highness? A voice from behind tugged him away from his melancholy. Another stark reminder he could never be alone on the trail as long as the damned crown of Havenstal called his head its home. He turned the home for a crown enough to make eye contact with Agit as he replied, "Any life we be taking from the trail be filling our bellies, not decorating our walls." "Forgive me, Highness." Agit's eyes dropped quickly away from the king's stern gaze. Emetoth ignored it. Agit was a solid soldier and a sturdy guard who still managed to wield a downright friendly personality. As far as guards go, he was probably the king's favorite. He certainly didn't earn Imatath's sour look. In fact, his statement hadn't really bothered the king at all. Any words leaving his mouth would have earned a negative response. His presence was what truly bothered the king of the greatest city of men. Not because of anything he had done. Simply because the trail and Ramallah were the only company Imatath cared to keep just then. In Ramallah's absence, pride would have to do. Agit and Scree, the other guard accompanying Imatath on his hunt, were about as wanted as a 3-inch thorn in the arch of a tired foot. The taste of sweet solitude on the trail was the one thing Imatath hungered for, and the one thing he couldn't have as the king. A brief flash of brown in a dark and familiar clump of trees caught the king's attention. Whisht! Something like a whistle without a tongue blasted sharp and quick from his lips as he raised his left arm and nodded toward the trees. Agit and Scree tugged the reins of their respective horses, halting them immediately behind the king. Imatath shot an intense, narrow-eyed scowl in their direction to stifle any words that may have been knocking against the backs of their teeth. The heavy look carried more meaning than anything the king had said since passing through the gates of Havenstal. After a few moments of startling quiet, disturbed only by the sound of lightly rustling leaves blowing about in the random clumps of trees surrounding the 3 hunters and the slow rush of waters from the river Galguth flowing behind them, Imatath pointed while nodding at the dark clump of trees. Scree sat just a notch lower than Agit in Imatath's eyes. They would stand equal if only Scree had a stronger control of his tongue. "I ain't be seeing nothing there, Highness," he blurted. "Shh!" Imatath scolded before shaking his head and whispering. "These eyes have watched me friends toast me 60th summer, and you're telling me they be seeing more than the keen eyes of one so fresh to the trail." Scree silently shrugged while Agit added, "I ain't be seeing nothing either." Fine hunting partners the two of ye had turned out to be. The king shook his head as he raised his bow and nocked an arrow. Now I just didn't have to turn a page because I finished the backside of a page, page 2, and I moved on to page 3. "Fine hunting partners the two of ye have turned out to be," the king shook his head as he raised his bow and nocked an arrow. Now this is getting kind of long, and I think we got the point, so I'm going to stop here. If you were going to continue reading this book, you would continue turning pages and continue reading words in the same fashion that I've just showed you until you reach the end. And then you would put that book on your shelf and save it for someone else who might want to read it. Loan it to them because you're a good friend. So I hope you've enjoyed this and learned a lot. I had a good time sharing this with you. If you want to pick up the book, it's Callan's Fury. You can find it on Amazon or on my website. Happy reading.